Simon Neave, welcome to the Graft podcast.
Hello, Ben.
Thank you very much for taking the time to join us today. We're going back to our roots with Graft today. So we've had some kind of very emotive stories that have been shared over the past few episodes. This is going back to the roots of where hard work gets you from a professional capacity point of view. You are the CEO and founder of a brand called Leep, which is a sleep and activity tracking ring. And what I want to find out today is about how the process goes of building a business and starting out on your own. But first of all, if you can give us some background from your side of things. I know you've worked in consumer electronics for over 20 years. Just give us headlines about how you got into that and what you did and where you are today.
I worked in supermarkets, Morrisons initially, when I sort of left school with A-levels, went into their management training scheme. And yeah, I was hard graft, working in retail, as anyone will tell you really. But I used to deal with all the reps. And I remember seeing like the beer reps coming in and I'd be signing off their orders and everything. And I just said to one of them, how do I get a job like yours? And he said, my job, well, I'm getting promoted, so my job's becoming available. I'll put a good word in for you. So that got me out of Morrisons after 7 years, and I went to work for Courage. They did like Foster's beer, Director's beer, stuff like that. So that was my first ever sort of job in sales, calling on off licenses, supermarkets. And I worked in the beer industry for 7 years, then worked for Budweiser. And then round about like 1999, when mobile phones were starting to take off, there was loads of people jumped into the mobile industry. And my boss at the time went to work for 2020 Mobile in Caldwell. And then I got the call from him. He said, oh, it's a great opportunity here. And then that was sort of 2000, turn of the millennium, just never looked back, been in tech ever since then. So met you, obviously, at 2020, back in, what was it, 2004, 2006, something like that. 10 years with them, and then just shy of 11 years with Strax.
Yeah.
Before they went bust.
Right. And they're distributors, right? For people that are listening, these are distributors in the mobile phone industry, buying products from vendors and supplying it into mass retail, telcos, grocery channel, which you used to look after, right?
Yeah, it was sort of Nokia back in the day, Sony Ericsson, when they were the big brands. There was a whole, I think they were called them, we called it accessories. I think they called them enhancements.
Okay.
But there was this whole business unit around it. And that's, as you know, 2020 was split between the handset division and then the accessories division. And yeah, we distributed other people's products. But then the industry sort of transitioned and retailers were either unable to get enough of the products that they wanted, or they weren't getting enough margin out of the products that they wanted. So this kind of own label, private label business kind of grew. And that's when we started sort of sourcing your own products from the Far East, designing things up, putting them into like a customer's private label, or like brands emerged from that, and then the distributors started to create their own brands. And that was the bit which really got me going, because like, it's okay selling other people's products, it's great, but nothing like building your own and creating your own brand, even if that's your own, like your company, the company you work for's brand.
Yeah.
So that was the sort of path I've been on for the last 15 years.
Yeah.
Either sourcing products that are exclusive to you, or, you know, designing, building, creating brands to fill gaps in the market.
Yeah. Okay. When you worked for the distributor's side, you'd mentioned about how, you know, I know some of your successes. You are essentially building other people's brands for a company that you're working for.
Yeah.
We've collectively both worked in similar scenarios, and I've looked back at that now and at the age of 48 and thought, I've had a pretty decent and successful career. I started my own business, a sales agency business, doing the same sort of thing. You mentioned that the final business that you worked for went into administration, but was there ever a part when you're working in those roles that you thought, I'm basically just making another brand, another person, a load of money that I probably should go and do myself?
Most of the time. But I think this is probably what holds a lot of people back from starting their own business. If you're in a good company and you're well paid, there's a kind of level of comfort. Yeah, just stay here. Everything's comfortable, getting paid well, company was doing well. And that probably prevented me from doing my own thing. Plus, all that kind of building something and making things. It was ticking that box.
Yeah.
We were building things. We bought Gear 4 phone case brand when it was in distress. I think we picked it up for like 3 or 4 million. And then over 3 years, grew it to 60 million and sold it for 50 million.
Wow.
So everyone had the appetite then, let's buy things, build things, sell them. So House of Brands became like Brand Factory.
Yeah.
And it was a good idea, but that's partly where it went wrong, I think. There was just too much pressure to make something and sell it, return to the investors, which is just, that's what happens when you raise money from investors. They want a return on that money, forced, or under pressure to kind of generate a return somehow. And I think that's where Strax, made a mistake. Before that, it was like a family-run company with very prudent, German, everything by the book. But ultimately, the pandemic sort of turned everything on its head for retail, full stop. Shops were shut. Nobody wanted to buy anything. 80% of what Strax did was sold into retailers that were now closed. And they never really recovered from that in the sort of traditional space. I think, like retail in the UK is really tough. And it is in sort of many other markets as well. So,
yeah,
that sort of 5-year journey from the pandemic to when Strax actually went bust was a very slow death.
Yeah. So that's 2024. We've come out of the pandemic, as we talked about. The company that you're working for has gone into administration. Where's your headspace at that point?
Well, it definitely wasn't on the plan.
Yeah.
To, 54, 36 years of working non-stop, and then all of a sudden you're like, what the hell do I do now? And it was sort of it's now or never, isn't it? That thing you've wanted to do that you've put off, it's now. There isn't really, it is now or never. And then it was, well, why not? What have you got to lose? You could go back to sort of trying to find a job again, and a difficult market at 54 to be sort of going into the job market with AI booming and everything else. I just thought, what do I want to do? What is it that actually gets me out up in the morning? And it was building something.
Yeah.
That was the sort of thing. It's like, right.
Okay.
Do it.
I mentioned the founder of a brand called Leep. It's a sleep and activity tracking wearable ring.
Yeah.
Why that market? What took you into that?
Well, I'm a sort of a tech nerd anyway. I always have been. I think working in the industry, it was just seemed natural. And I'd seen the growth, particularly since COVID, just the health tech in general, everything health tech, everything health. There was a sort of mind shift among people, whether it was we realised how frail we were and something could come along and no matter how fit or healthy you were, it could knock you down, or whether it was people looked at the situation in healthcare and the pressure they were under and thought, I do not want to go there. But there was a shift. People started, optimizing everything around health. And there's sort of a dial where you've got probably at one end of it Brian Johnson, that guy who spends $2 million a year on. He's got his own doctors, and
yes, I know the guy you mean. He's never going to die, right?
He's trying to dial himself back to like 11 or whatever it is. Genetically, he wants to be 11.
Yeah.
But on the other hand of it, you've got people who are just like, okay, I'll sort of drink a bit less, exercise a bit more, try and watch what I eat, and along with that comes getting better sleep. And I think it's a topic of conversation. Sleep curious, I think I would call it. There's people like, I don't get enough sleep. I often wake up at 3 o'clock in the night. And I'd been working last throw of the dice at Strax was with a company called Ultrahuman. Saw them at IFA in Berlin in 23. I was like, wow, you guys, this is amazing. Like what you've done. Love the brand, form factor, the style, everything. This is great. I think Strax could sell this, and they could. But obviously Strax was on sort of life support at that point in time. But we put it out to all the customers, all the sales guys, all the sales channels. And like one by one, people saying, yeah, I think we've got an opportunity for this. Strax never got any of that business, but I spent 8 months working with Ultrahuman trying to get them set up.
Yeah.
And learned during that time that really the reason people were interested in buying a smart ring was because most people had an Apple Watch. They track their steps and their activities and their exercise, etc. But they weren't looking at the sleep. Your Apple Watch is usually on charge on a night, or, you know, if you're into running or something like that, you know, your Garmin, that's your what you use for your fitness and your activity. But there was this gap in understanding sleep, and sleep was all of a sudden, becoming more and more important. Or people were learning how important it was. You know, it wasn't something you could just sort of trade off for a night out and you'd be fine. You know, your performance degrades dramatically without sleep in everything that you do. Relationships, work, sports, everything. So sleep started to become, like a foundation of well-being and health.
Yeah.
You know, you can go without food for maybe 4 or 5 days and still be okay. Go without sleep for 4 or 5 days. God, you know.
Yeah. I think it is one of those things, like you quite rightly say. I think the like smartwatches, I'm standing up more now, I'm walking more. It's interesting that you mentioned about the thing that interests me about sleep is it's, to your point, it's almost a thing that was overlooked, isn't it? It's like, if you want to be healthier, be busier, do more running, more steps, more all those things. And yet there's almost this kind of, previously there's been this, actually rest. When you read today about athletes and what peaks their performance, you know, I've been reading recently about Premier League footballers, for example. They have more scrutiny on how they rest and sleep than they probably do from a fitness aspect point of view nowadays, how rested they are properly. And so that, to that point that you're making there, it could, because it affects so much, like, you know, the statistics around, you know, not sleeping, you know, if you haven't been to sleep in between 17 and 19 hours, which leaves how many? Roughly about 8 hours a day of the you're at the same sort of performance level of a person who's over the limit from a drink driving perspective, right? So it massively affects
reaction time, cognitive ability, problem solving ability to handle stress, full situations. I mean, again, at one end of the spectrum, you've got people with Oura, you know. They're kind of the market leader in the smart ring space, and they'll check the readiness score in the morning, and if it's below 75, I won't make any big decisions today. Yeah, because my ring's telling me that I'm not in the best cognitive space to make these decisions. So, I think there's spectrums of how much people rely on these sort of devices, but they're useful, and I think it's like whatever level you have detail you go into the data you get from these devices. It's useful just as a check-in. You know, it's not, in my view, something that you should run your life by at all. You know, it's what's most important is how you actually feel. But just that sort of keep checking in, like, you know, make sure you're hitting your step goals, or you're challenging yourself to go a little bit further in your exercise routine. You know, it's just a natural thing to sort of want to improve and progress. And I think it's the same with sleep. How do I improve my sleep? How can I stop waking up in the middle of the night, or just get 6.5 hours instead of 6 or 7, ideally? You know?
What took you from a market perspective? Si, you mentioned there one of the leading brands in this space is a brand called Aura. What did you go out with the intention of Leep being in that sector then?
All things happen, right? Phones, when they came out, they were like $5,000 or more. To get a car phone fitted in your car, they were really expensive. Yeah. But over time, things get mass produced. the component costs come down in price. And eventually, where are we at today? You can probably buy a phone for like 50 quid, easy, you know, and it'll be probably got more computing power in it than went to the moon.
Yeah.
So things become cheaper to make, mass produce, and basically proliferate so that everybody has access to them. But when I looked at smart sleep tech and smart rings in particular, you know, they were all like 300-400 quid, and we were charging a subscription on top of that. And it seemed like, oh, the only people they're interested in are the people with enough disposable income. And that, on the other hand, you have Whoop, you know, who are, obviously it's not a smart ring, it's bracelet style, but they were very much about the pro athletes, the elite athlete training. And that's probably only about 0.5% of the population of the planet who actually want to be that elite level athletic performance. So not everybody needs to be coached like that by a wearable.
Yeah.
100% of us sleep.
Yeah. Interesting.
About, depending on which market you're in, around about 60% of people use a fitness tracker or a wearable of something. So it was like, right, there's a gap in from my sort of product-y sales perspective. It's like, nobody's really doing this, making it affordable, accessible. And as a sort of complement to if you've got a smartwatch, just the sort of piece of tech that you can use to track your sleep. And then started digging how much these things cost to make. And, you know, you can find them on the internet. You can do like teardowns on Oura, Ultrahuman. They're all available. Then you start to realise, like, wow, the component cost of these has come down. They're about $13, cost of an Oura ring component. There's a few other costs, assembly and distribution, all the rest of the costs going in. But it was like, well, these things are not...
Raw technology wasn't that expensive.
Raw technology wasn't that expensive. And then, obviously, the app. You know, the hardware's one thing, but you wear a smart ring. There's no screen, so you're not interacting with it even like an Apple Watch. If you do the job right, it sits on your finger and you forget about it. Because that's the inobtrusive appeal of smart rings. They're just sort of, long battery life, don't even notice it's there. The thing that you interact with is the app, and that's the bit where you're getting all the information and the insights, and that was the other thing. There's a lot of people overwhelmed by the data, especially with Ultrahuman, who have a kind of dashboard of, like, you know, metrics and scores and statistics. Same with the Whoop. They go into all this granular level detail. And for some people, it was just overwhelming.
It's too much, isn't it? I think I've seen, you know, various kind of sports. I think you mentioned there about, you know, there are a lot of kind of consumer products in this space that communicate with the customer, in my opinion, like you're that elite athlete or wanting to be, and it's confusing. Yeah. It's overbearing, I find, in most circumstances, right? I mean, I think it's one of the things I like about Apple Watch. It's like, I've got 3 rings, I've done my exercise ring, I'm halfway through how many times I've got to stand up, and I'm 3/4 way through my activity for the day. Done.
Yeah.
I know where I am just from that.
Totally.
And I think the majority of people want that, don't they?
Yeah, like the minimum amount of calories needed to take in the information, essentially. If you've got to kind of study it, you know, a lot of people either, you know, lose interest, unless that is your obsession. And there are people out there who obsess over the numbers.
Yeah.
There are also the people who will be probably upset and the day's ruined if the Oura ring told them, you know, gives them a bad score or something. So
yeah.
But yeah, there was a lot of people who were overwhelmed by, and Ultrahuman had a feature in their ring called circadian phase shift alignment.
Right, catchy. Yeah.
And
I know exactly what that
means.
means.
I went round, I was asking, do you know what that means? Like, I have not got a clue. Do you know what it means? I haven't got a clue. I said, this is the issue with these things. What they were just basically trying to say is, now's a good time to get outside and get some blue light.
Yeah.
You know, this is going to trigger your circadian rhythm, start off the cortisol, your clock will start ticking, so that when you get to 9, 10 o'clock, your normal bedtime, that melatonin will be built up and you'll have sleep pressure and you'll fall asleep. okay, that's the sciencey kind of bit about it, but it was just, I think there's a better way you can explain that. Get outside, get some blue light. It'll help you sleep better. So there's sort of little things which that was the appeal when I wanted to work with James Wilson, the sleep geek, sleep expert, because he's sort of down to earth. It's just like, got to be able to understand it and be able to apply it in your own sort of frame of thinking to your life. Otherwise, it's just worthless advice. And all these so that's where I was like, right, there's an opportunity here, not only to make something more affordable, but accessible to people. Information that you can actually go, get it.
Yeah.
Right. God, yeah.
What's the I want to get into some of the intricacies of you building the business, but what's the feedback been so far? Now, I know obviously now the product is operational, it's ready, market ready, and so on. What's that bit that you wanted to try and hit? What's that? How is that resonating with, I guess, customers and end users?
I'd like to think it's like 8 out of 10 cats are happy, sort of thing.
Yeah.
You know, it definitely based on the customers I'm speaking to. I'm trying to speak to all the customers directly, at least on email. All the customer inquiries that are coming in. 2 reasons: just I want to know what they think and get their first-hand experience, and it's really people have come back with really good suggestions and ideas as well, which is just been better if you did this, or what about thinking about this, which is the vital stage of building. I think a product like this is get some early users, understand from them what they like, what they don't like, what needs fixing, because it's a continuous sort of improvement. Like the Forth Road Bridge, I don't think you ever actually finish with an app. It's just constantly sort of learning, trying to improve it, refine it, listen to the feedback. So it's been good. I as you know, like the interest from retailers, distributors all over the world is like, there's something happening here. There's a gap. And I'm genuinely happy with it. I am sort of pleased with what sort of we've got to so far.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of startups don't even get launched, don't even get the product out there, and you can spend millions and years and still not get anything out. And this was execution is everything.
Yeah.
You know, so we've done it.
So let's just talk about some of those things, Si, because I think that's an interesting part for people to understand about starting and challenges of starting a new business. When I started mine, and mine's very different, right? There's no kind of product outlay. Essentially my business was a service-led business.
You are the product.
Me, yeah, exactly. Which is a little bit worrying that I'm going. that was the bit that I was going in with. But, you know, I had that kind of 6-month notice period runway to go and start it. My wife is my biggest fan, which is amazing. I don't know quite why. She's and she was very much around. Go out there, do this yourself. You don't need, have the confidence, back yourself, go for it. And but I was never really very good at that. How were you in it? How hard has it been to start your own business completely on your own?
Hard. There's no 2 ways about it. It's really hard, and probably definitely harder than you can ever think it's going to be. I think that's the thing.
What's the biggest things that have surprised you that have been the challenge?
The worst thing is fundraising.
Yeah.
And money. That just makes everything difficult all the time. Unless you're fortunate enough to be able to, raise a significant amount to make, everything run smoothly for 18, but we haven't been like that. It's just been fundraising from angels and friends, family, so initially to sort of get us to the point where we could build. We're still fundraising now, so it's just a full-time job, really, to do fundraising properly. And I underestimated that. I really didn't have a handle on it, having never done it before, how much time it takes to fundraise. And that, if I'd done that all the time, like full-time fundraising, then maybe things have been different. But I couldn't. I just wanted to build something.
Yeah.
So we raised a bit, built, raised, built, sell, built,
Yeah.
everything all at the same time. And I think that's the bit which you don't fully understand. It is everything, everywhere, all at once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What would you have done differently? Because you're still relatively early days, right? This is under 2 years old. Product's been ready since Jan.
Yeah.
So it's taken, 16, 18 months to get you to the point of launching, which was in January. But what looking back now, what would you have done differently?
There's things which if you'd done differently, you don't know what the outcome would have been if you'd done them differently. So we built the Apple app first. My first ever app that I've ever been involved in building. So that was sort of like, right, how do you... So I took advice. People say, look, keep it simple, right? Work from the premise that every line of code is a liability. You don't have to write code for it, don't do it. Okay. Expect that it's going to take twice as long and cost twice as much as you ever thought it was going to be. Okay. And just dumb it down to the very sort of minimum you think you can get away with and just build that first. Because the rest of it is based, otherwise you'll build stuff that in an app that you don't even know whether people are going to use.
People don't use it. Is it right? Do they like it? Yeah, true.
And the costs we were getting initially sort of from various, try to go to leading agencies and get a spread of sort of costs, anything from $500,000 to $1 million. No way. Okay, right, then we'll cut that back a bit and cut that back a bit. But didn't want to sort of scrimp on the quality. So I had to make this decision to go with a really good agency who'd worked for 8 Sleep and Chipolo and Reddit. I mean, they were based in San Francisco. They were really, really good. They did a very fair price. But it just meant that we had to build Apple first, only Apple. But I think it was the right thing to do. It meant we delayed a bit. Android's next week. So we've been sort of playing catch up with the Android app. But a lot of people say, oh, you haven't got Android. Not interested. Come back to when you've got Android. So I was like, I wish I'd had Android. At the same time, if I tried to build Android, we might have had 2 things going wrong at the same time, both of them taking twice as long and costing twice as much. So we could have literally blown our brains out without even getting to the finish line, just trying to build 2 apps.
Yeah. Have you ever been in the process of building this business side that you thought about giving up? And ever thought about this is too hard? Because I think that's a big blocker to the point that you make. The safety net of people working, maybe having a dream, maybe having an idea, don't because of that level of comfort that you talk about. You mentioned that you really started this really from a place of discomfort because you needed to work something out. You're the business you'd worked for had gone into administration. So it was the opportunity to, right, okay, well, I've got to do something. So you're doing this. But has there been a period of time going through this process of building Leep that you've thought, no, this is too hard. I can go back to employment?
There's been times when I thought it's hard. Haven't thought about going back to employment. Because I tend not to give up. People say, what's your biggest strength? Don't give up. What's your biggest weakness? I don't give up. It's like a double-edged sword. You just don't. And I think that's, Strax as an example. I just went down with the ship. I was determined to just fight till the bitter end and try and sort of save it, even though it wasn't my company. It just, it's not in my nature to just quit.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not to the best interest of yourself, but it's that sort of loyalty to the people that you work with, and I think I feel that about. I'm the founder of this company, right? Obviously, I've got investors that are relying on me. They put their faith in me to sort of build a business that is worthy of their money, all right? So it's not a choice that you could even really consider. like seriously, you might think, oh, I have that feeling that I want to give up and this is really hard. And oh, God, I wish I just won 10 grand for life and then I'd be happy, you know. But it's, yeah, I get up every morning and feel like there's something to do. And that is, yeah, it just sort of washes over everything. You're doing something, you know it's going to be difficult, it's going to take time. So yeah, I don't think I've ever felt the point where I would, this is it, quit.
Well, that's, you know, the show's called Graft, where hard work gets you, right? And that's where it pushes you to. Has there been, though, Si, if you don't mind me asking, any personal cost to the hard work, the stresses and strains of doing this? Because there is, you know, being on your own is a relatively lonely environment of that as well, though, isn't it? You know, it's, I know you being, you know, working in environments where, you know, there's a very big social connection to customers and environments like that, working with lots of different people, brands, factories, you know, then to kind of then Simon Neave is now building a brand, you then on your own. Have you felt much personal cost of it?
Yeah. I think the time, you lose time, personal time. It is, without shadow of a doubt, you know, 7 days a week. Maybe on a Saturday I'll maybe only work half as much as I would on a normal day, but still using that quiet time when nobody else is bothering you. LinkedIn, WhatsApp, whatever, you know, you can just like think about things and try and focus and plan. And so I tend to use that sort of weekend, which you would, for most other people, it's like their free time. It's my free time to get this work stuff done that I don't get done during the work week. So you sacrifice a lot of your own personal time. I mean, I used to really like going to the gym, like you, sort of 6 o'clock morning, hit that gym, get it done. More often than not now, 6 o'clock, you're catching up with messages overnight from Asia, Australia, or wherever, dealing with the factory. So that's something you've just got to be prepared to sacrifice, time. Cost-wise, gosh, every sort of bit of savings that I had went into this. So yeah.
How do you manage that? If I can just dig into that a little bit. So I think that's one of my. Yeah, I don't know why I have so much of a. Like my wife will tell me, you know, we're all right. You know, you don't need to be. You don't need to kind of, you know, push. And I guess it's the way I'm wired. I do like working. I love, you know, you talked about, you called it don't like to give up is a strength and weakness sort of thing. I like building things. I love taking something from, oh, this is an idea and hopefully it's going there, and then seeing it going to customers and retailers and online, right? That bit for me, I love it. But I'm not, like if someone said to me, you know, yeah, remortgage your house and put it into this, I couldn't do it. I'd feel the pressure of that too much. That would weigh too much on my mind, that I think it would have a debilitating impact on my performance to be able to bring it to life. I think is it. How do you deal with it? How's
I don't know. It's surprising what you can deal with, really. I mean, I used to be, you know, comfortable as well. Good job, traveling the world, you know, 6-figure salaries. Everything was 2 or 3 holidays a year if you wanted them, you know. And I think back in our last holiday was June 2024. We've had a week in Whitby, 5 days in Whitby.
good weather?
It was actually, it was beautiful. But the thing is, that week in 5 days in Whitby, man, that was the best holiday. One, because you needed it. It just turned out the weather was beautiful. Still took my computer and everything and set it up on the desk in the Airbnb place we were sort of a cottage we were renting. So I was getting sort of like 4 or 5 hours working. I just couldn't leave it. But it was walk along the beach, go and get fish and chips, go for a pint, down to Sands End. It was just perfect. And I would do it again tomorrow, rather than sort of go on a long haul trip somewhere. I would just instant relaxation. It was.
Yeah.
But you notice things like that. I was asking a lot for Sarah. She's working full time. She's going to go away with the girls this year because I'm just not sure what the hell I'm going to be doing, and I'm still in the phase where I really need to be focused on getting this baby, out of its nappies.
Yeah,
so
and
to
walking.
speak. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. What kind of things would you the sort of giving people advice that are looking to do the same sort of thing, starting their own brand, product, service, business? Knowing what you know now, would you say, consider this, think about this stuff? This might not be what you're thinking about, but you better had, because it's going to surprise you. What's giving the people advice?
There's definitely easier things to do than a smart ring.
Okay.
That's the first thing. I was chatting to a founder guy yesterday. He's vibe coding, building an app. He's smart. Don't get me wrong, really smart guy. And him and his co-founder, they're building a health-related app for women athletes, essentially. And he was like, "Oh yeah, it's $700 a month is our overheads." But he doesn't have a product. It's just code and brain,
Yeah.
I mean, so there's that. That obviously, especially with AI, those things are very hot at the moment. So B2B software, AI enabled health, women's health. There's certain things which are easier, lower cost to do, and if you've got the brain power or the willingness, then there's easier things to do than a smart ring.
Mm-hmm.
Be prepared for if you have to go raise funds for a very long journey on that, and it's full time, and just don't do it. No, go get a job. No, I mean, I don't regret it. It's
That was
one
my
of those
next question.
Yeah, it's definitely one of
Are
those
you
things.
enjoying it?
Yeah, I am. I think, sort of, I always enjoyed building something when it was somebody else's as well, you get behind the brand, you've done the same. You're just like, right, you get that
Kind of feels like yours, doesn't it?
you
That's,
do.
that
You
sense,
sort of take it on as, you treat it as your own brand, you give it all the attention and as if it was yours, but it's somebody else's. So it's just like applying everything that you've done before to this, with the same passion that you've built. It's like, right, that should be successful then. You've gone through the process of the research, the analysis, attention to detail on the product. I think the difference between, I think Steve Jobs said this, the difference between success and failure is more often than not giving in. A lot of people give in before, right on the edge of something being successful. So it's just determination, just carry on,
Yeah.
in the face of, even other people saying, yeah, you're crazy. Not that they are saying that. It's just, you just got to carry on.
Graft podcast, so I might have mentioned, started with a conversation with a 17-year-old, 18-year-old son about, what's your plan, mate? Where are you going? What are you doing? And you do realise that, once we'd got through the drivel that was becoming the next, supersonic YouTube, blah, 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 Instagrammer, my leading comment was, you do get that there's an element of hard work and graft that's going to get you there. That point that you make there about not giving up and, pushing, I'm so much a believer in it now than ever of this, the difference of where you are and where you want to get to. 95% of that is hard work.
Yeah.
95% is application. I never used to believe it. I used to look at footballers and think, they're brilliant. They just got it, haven't they? That person who started a business, they just, look at how, wonderfully successful they are. We had a coach on here called, we had a guest on here called Andy Pear. He's a super successful local businessman, hospitality, medical industry, and so on and so forth. I still see him today. He's flat out, he's working, he's so on and so forth. That I'd really hope people don't underestimate that is the component of success. And a very, very big component of success is hard work, is graft.
Oh, it has been. I think, I don't know whether it's a northern thing or whether it's, because don't get me wrong, there's people in the north that don't work hard as well. I get that, but I think from my perspective, when I left Morrisons and went into a sales job, I was like, God, I'm back to the beginning. I'm like learning. I'd done retail. I'd risen to the sort of dizzy heights of deputy store manager, but you had like 150 people reporting into you and stuff like that. It was sort of at 25. It was strange. People would call you Mr. Neave. Like, what? But then you went into junior sales. I was at the bottom of the bottom. When I went into Courage, I was like a trainee. So that sort of makes you think, I'm going to have to work so much harder to get caught up with everybody else who's been doing it for years, just to get on that sort of competency level with them. So I remember having like a little book, things you had to know your products, right? So you had to know your beers, key USPs, its ABV, what size can it came in, your pricing and everything. I used to have this little book with all the different Courage beers in. And I was writing everything down and trying to force it into your brain. Because at the time you just thought, I am so disadvantaged not knowing what I'm doing. You've got to sort of learn really, really quickly. So I just applied myself. Remember Jonny Wilkinson?
Yeah.
With that World Cup kick.
Yeah.
And it was his fear of failure that sort of made him practice and practice and practice and practice. Everybody else had went home. He was still on the pitch practicing that kick. I think I was like that. I just had this sort of, I don't want this to fail. I've got to just keep working. I won Salesperson of the Year. I didn't set out to win it in the first year. And it was that hard work. It's like, wow, I not only had I matched everybody else, I'd actually exceeded them. Didn't set out to do that. I was trying to catch up. But just that hard work and effort is the differentiator. 9 times out of 10. Luck can play a role as well. There's a lot of people just happen to be in the right place at the right time and, hey, But for me, I think for most people, it's that willingness to sort of work hard, possibly coupled with a fear of failure that just keeps you going as well, because sometimes when things look so dark, it's just before the dawn. And, you've been in that situation where you just get one big win with a customer and it transforms everything. So, yeah, it's sort of that mentality, really, Ben.
Brilliant. So I've had the opportunity to use the Leep ring, £169 in UK markets.
Yes.
It's, to your point, very different, a much more achievable price point than some of your competitors that you've got out there. I think it's brilliant. I've never really been interested, dare I say, in knowing about sleep. Now it's my first metric that I'm checking.
Yeah.
But it's a great looking product, really good packaging. It's a credit to you of where you've got it to. You should be incredibly proud of what you've achieved,
Thank you.
especially off the back of, as you say, coming from a very comfortable, well paid job. I've been incredibly impressed, and I love the interface of the app because it's, to that point, simplistic. It's not intrusive. It tells me my vitals that I want to know and that what I know I can improve on. I think it's absolutely brilliant. 12, 18 months down the road, so where do you want Leep to be, and what are you working on? Where is it in your mind?
Well, all of this vision and delusion, which is which, because I've been sort of in this tech lane, and I've made I guess sometimes the art of it, or I feel the art is seeing what's coming next and getting in at the right time. Sometimes it's difficult. But with this, it was sort of, all the indicators seemed to be like really, really clear. Health is so much more important now to everybody. When you look at healthcare, say the NHS, even the US, other markets, there's a big push towards digitization of healthcare. So along with AI and what that brings is actually getting, wearables people can use for preventative care, to identify early signs of illness. There's far more advanced products than Leep bring out there, obviously, and there's far more advanced products being sort of developed now. But I think there's a future 5-10 years from now where wearables will be early diagnostic tools, remote patient monitoring. You'll be able to sort of know whether you're going to have a stroke or you've got high blood pressure. I mean, that technology's available now. I mean, there's quite a lot of people who you can speak to and say, yeah, my Apple Watch gave me a notification. I went to the doctor and I've got arterial fibrillation. My sister, this is genuine, her Apple Watch suggested that she had hypertension, high blood pressure. It then advised her to take her blood pressure readings with a cuff for 7 days, and it then produced a report. And she went to a doctor, shared this data with a doctor, and they did some tests and said, yeah, you've got hypertension. So she's on medication for the rest of her life for high blood pressure. And it was her Apple Watch that detected it.
Wow.
And told her.
Yeah.
So she was like mind blown. But I think it's just there's more and more capability like that can actually save lives.
Yeah.
And prevent illness by detecting it early enough, seeing the patterns that are in your biometrics, combining that with other sources. I'm having some amazing conversation with some far brighter people than me, but voice analysis, detecting stress from your voice in real time, coupling that with your heart rate, being able to, anxiety, depression, potentially even preventing suicide through using technology and tools that can actually just intervene at the right time. So I think there's a brilliant future for sort of tech and helping people improve their health and well-being, potentially even at like NHS level. So the dream, the vision, the delusion, whatever you call it, when the NHS comes to need wearables, why not a British brand? Why go and buy Oura from the US or Whoop, or why not a British company?
Yeah.
There was nobody doing it in this space. Like, say I was in Ultrahuman from India, Oura from Finland, but actually they're out of San Francisco. They're a US brand now. Whoop's American, Ultrahuman from India, Rincon from China. Why is there no British brands in this space? We've got genuinely some of the best clinical and medical minds in the world, and especially in the sleep space as well. Some of the leading sleep experts are in this country. So it just seemed we had everything there, but there just didn't seem anybody wanting to make something. Right, let's do it.
Leap is born.
In a way, leap of faith,
The leap
whatever
of
you want to
faith.
call
Yeah.
it. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
lots of things.
Yeah.
Leap off a cliff.
Si, thank you so much for taking the time to join us
Ben,
on
thank
Graft
you.
today. It's an amazing story. I think that that British element of the is also a gap that you've managed to hit, along with the price point and so on. It's really interesting where this market is going. I completely agree. People are becoming so much more in tune with their health and general well-being, and that can only help going forward, can't it? I mean, you talk about the NHS and the biggest driver that they have of being able to really minimise costs is how can they be way more preventative than reactive, which is basically what the pressures are of the entire thing at the moment. But this has been brilliant to learn about, mate, and I hope lots of people will listen to this and say that's potentially my
And fall asleep.
springboard and or my leap that I'm now going to take to start their own businesses and stuff. But really appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks,
It's
Ben.
been brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's a wrap on this week's Graft. Please make sure you follow the podcast from wherever you listen or watch from so you don't miss an episode, and we'll see you next week.